Hey there, Saki here from sakitech. In today's video, we will do a full comparison between the iPad Pro 9.7 inches versus the Samsung Galaxy Tab S2 9.7 inches. Now just to give you a perspective, iPad Pro was released in March 2016 and the Tab S2 released in August 2015. So we have an approximate 8-month gap in between the two products. Now Apple and Samsung are arch enemies and they both produce great products, which is why people always wonder which one to choose, Apple or Samsung. So in this video, we will do a deep dive into every aspect of both of these tablets and at the end see which will trump the other, or perhaps which might be the right fit for you for the price. We are going to figure out which one is the better tablet. And just so you know, we also have a comparison video comparing the iPad Air 2 to the Tab S2, and if you wish, you can view that as well. Link will be in the description below. But for now, let's dive into the Pro versus Tab S2. First thing, processor, memory, and storage options. So the iPad Pro has a dual-core 64-bit A9X chip that is clocked at 2.16 GHz with 2 GB of RAM. You can get the Pro with a starting storage capacity of 32 GB. Just remember, you don't get SD card expansion with iPads, so if you buy a 32 GB iPad, you're stuck with 32 GB for the life of your ownership. Let's take a look at the Tab S2. The Tab S2 has an Exynos 7 5433 octa-core processor. Octa stands for 8, so we have 8 total processing cores. The first set of 4 cores are clocked at 1.9 GHz and the second set of 4 cores are clocked at 1.3 GHz. You get 3 GB of RAM and 32 GB of storage for the base model, but you do get the SD expansion slot, which means you can add up to an additional 128 GB of space using a micro SD card. If you are a media hog and love to carry a large volume of movies, music, and pictures on a removable SD card, then the Tab S2 has a clear advantage in storage options. However, storage isn't everything. We do have to do a benchmark comparison test to measure which one of these tablets produces more raw horsepower. So let's clear all the background tasks and run the cross-platform Geekbench benchmarking tool to measure the performance and speed. Now, as you can see by these numbers, the iPad Pro leads both in the single-core performance and the multi-core performance, which denotes that the iPad Pro certainly offers more speed and power. We will talk a little more about why you would need this kind of processing power towards the end of the video, so for now, let's move on to the build and design. Alright, so let's move on to the build and design. And let's start off with the iPad. iPad Pro is simply a gorgeous device. It rocks a sleek unibody aluminum design that screams quality. When you hold this device in your hands, it feels like $1 million. And now let's take a look at the Tab S2. Though not crafted completely out of premium components, the Tab S2 looks just as beautiful as the iPad Pro. But it certainly does not offer the same $1 million feel you get from the iPad when you hold it, because it actually has a soft touch plastic back cover. The fact that the edges that surround the device are metal certainly give the Tab S2 a solid and premium feel, but not on the same level as the iPad Pro, which is a full unibody aluminum build. Now, another important thing to mention is the grip factor. The Tab S2 certainly offers a much better grip due to its plastic back cover. The sense of security that you get while holding the Tab S2 doesn't carry over to the silky smooth surface of the iPad, which feels like it could simply glide out of your hands onto the floor and shatter to 1,000 pieces. So while the Tab S2 might be owned without a case, the iPad certainly demands a case. In conclusion, although the iPad wins in overall build quality, the Tab S2 allows for a better grip. As for the aesthetics go, both devices look quite nice. Now in my opinion, the iPad looks a little bit better, but that is a subjective choice, so you may have a different opinion. And of course, don't hesitate to drop a comment below indicating your choice. Let's move on to the weight and dimensions. Alright, so the iPad Pro measures 240 millimeters in height, 169.5 millimeters wide, and 6.1 millimeters thick, and it only weighs 437 grams. The Tab S2 measures 237.3 millimeters in height, 169 millimeters wide, and 5.6 millimeters thick, and it only weighs 389 grams. Tab S2 clearly clocks in as the thinner and lighter tablet, so the win goes to the Tab S2, even though the iPad Pro by no means is a heavy tablet, though we do have a 48-gram difference. And although the Tab S2 is the clear winner, this category shouldn't be a major deciding factor in your buying choice. Next, we want to take a look at the display. So we have an identical screen size on both tablets. It's 9.7 inches for both of these guys. The screen resolution is 1536 by 2048 pixels, and the screen PPI, pixels per inches, is 364. We also have the same aspect ratio of 4:3 and default portrait orientation. So both these tablets will give a very similar viewing pleasure as you read books, magazine, newspapers, or watch movies and play games. As for actual screen quality, the Tab S2 offers the Super AMOLED display, which produces rich and vibrant colors and amazing contrast. iPad Pro offers a similarly well-calibrated IPS LCD screen. However, the Tab S2 has a slight edge in overall quality, and that is due to the Super AMOLED screen. When you look at the same pictures on both tablets, the ones on the Tab S2 look slightly richer and more full of life. So what's the conclusion? The resolution, aspect ratio, and screen size are all the same. But as we have just mentioned, the Tab S2 has a slight lead in screen quality. But the difference isn't great enough to pick an ultimate winner. So this is just another category where both products will provide top-class experience for the consumer. So let's move on to something that actually makes a huge difference in a buying decision: the software. iPad Pro comes with the latest version of iOS, and the Tab S2 comes with the latest version of Android with Samsung TouchWiz overlay. Largely, the software comparison is all about iOS versus Android. Let me first talk about what makes Android superior. It is customization and personalization. Basically, you can take an Android tablet and change the look and feel of the home screens to fully fit your personal sense of style. Biggest feature of all is the use of live widgets, which will feed you up-to-date information right on your home screen at a glance. You can have widgets for weather, stocks, calendars, your bank accounts, your investment portfolio, fancy clocks that just look cool, notes, quotes, picture galleries, and much more. And all of this is going to be on your home screen. Furthermore, you can customize individual widgets. You can also change the color of the folders that you create, which you can use to organize apps. So clearly, it's all about customization. iOS, on the other hand, completely lacks in the customization department. All you can have is a static lock screen, which when you swipe to unlock exposes a static home screen with app icons and folders. There are no live widgets. This also makes iOS an easier to use system. It's easier to get it up and running after purchase without too much fragmentation, and you can dive right into the apps instead of configuring the interface. Now, the category in which Apple leads is the app ecosystem, not in relation to the number of apps available, but in terms of the quality of the apps. The apps that are created for the Apple App Store are largely superior than their Android counterparts, especially for tablets. They are better designed and better optimized, and they do run smooth. And of course, when I talk about apps, I also mean games. App Store has considerably better optimized games than Android. Does this mean that Android doesn't have quality apps and great games? Of course not. It does, but simply not as many as the Apple App Store. So if you are an app and a tablet gaming junkie and you love smoothly functioning systems, Apple is the way to go. Either way, you will make a sacrifice. You can either have deep levels of customization on Android or a very rich app store full of quality apps on a smooth and shiny iOS framework. Now, both the iPad Pro and the Tab S2 offer split screen multitasking. They run slightly different but get the job done if you are seeking to multitask. In terms of just browsing within the operating system, such as launching apps, multitasking, changing settings, both iOS and Android are extremely smooth. But Android does occasionally lag, whereas the iOS offers a sort of consistent smoothness the entire time. Also, as we talk about the software, I would like to mention that the iPad Pro actually supports a fantastic accessory called the Apple Pencil. The downside is that this accessory is going to cost you $100 to own, but it buys you the ability to draw, sketch, write, and create using the Apple Pencil right on your iPad Pro with extreme precision. You will definitely get that paper and pencil feel. Of course, Apple Pencil is optional and it is not a requirement to enjoy the many benefits iPad Pro offers. Because this is a comparison video, I'm compelled to say that the Tab S2 does not have a comparable option on the table. But that's all I want to touch in relation to software. Let's move on to the camera and video capabilities. This is a category where the iPad Pro wins very quickly. On the rear, it has a 12-megapixel iSight camera with flash, and this camera is actually on par with the camera you'd find on the iPhone 6s, which happens to be a world-class camera. In comparison, the Tab S2 sports a rear camera of 8 megapixels with no flash. Not only can you expect to take sharp, crisp, and clear photos on the iPad Pro, you also get some top-notch video recording options. You can record 4K at 30 frames per second, 1080p at 60 or 30 frames per second, and you can record 720p slow motion video at a staggering 240 frames per second. In comparison, the Tab S2 offers a 1080p at 30 frames per second. As for the front-facing cameras, they're only good for video conferencing. I hardly ever use cameras on a tablet, but if you do care, if you have been itching for a good camera on a tablet, remember that the iPad Pro will offer you the best camera on the market for a tablet. Let's move on to the battery. Both the Tab S2 and iPad promise approximately 10 hours of battery life, assuming a healthy mixture of watching movies, listening to music, and browsing the web. I never had problems with the Tab S2's battery, nor did I have a problem with the iPad Pro. Now, I do want to mention that the Tab S2 has better battery management features when your battery is in fact running low. You get the power savings mode, and you also get the ultra power savings mode, which is going to allow you to extend your battery life if you're stranded. The iPad does not offer any one of these features. Let's move on. So let's move on and take a look at the fingerprint sensor, as well as the speakers. Both tablets come with a touch to unlock fingerprint sensor that work flawlessly with 99.9% accuracy. So both tablets have great fingerprint sensors that simply work, and that's exactly what we want. I also want to talk about the speakers, so let me just say that the iPad Pro has 4 high-fidelity speakers that produce extremely rich and detailed sound. It also produces 2 to 3 times more sound than the Tab S2. So in speaker quality, the Pro wins big time. I have watched several movies on the iPad Pro with multiple people, and no one ever complained about lack of sound. So keep that in mind if you don't like to use third-party Bluetooth speakers. That is an extra thing to carry with you. Let's look at the pricing and color options. Alright, so the iPad Pro actually is going to cost you $599 for a 32GB base model. You can upgrade to 128GB of storage for $749, or you can get a whopping 256GB of storage at a whopping price of $899. You get 4 color options: silver, gold, space gray, and rose gold. Now the Tab S2 only comes in the 32GB option. The prices fluctuate between $399 and $499. You get 3 color options: white, black, and gold. Now the Tab S2 has a clear advantage in pricing, so let's move on to the conclusion and try to make sense of all the facts. First, let me quickly outline where the iPad Pro wins. Number 1, it's got a powerful processor that outperforms the Tab S2. Number 2, you have amazing speakers that eliminate the need for third-party speakers. And number 3, you get the ability to purchase Apple Pencil, which opens a new level of creativity. And here's where the Tab S2 wins. Number 1, you have expandable storage via SD card. And number 2, you have a lower price tag. And finally, here's where they are almost the same. You have a similar display quality. They're both great looking devices. They both have great fingerprint sensors, and you have a similar battery life. So which one is the right one for you? I can actually answer that question by asking you a question. What do you need the tablet for? Do you need it for browsing the web, watching movies, and reading? If that is the case, I can tell you both the Tab S2 and iPad Pro can easily handle those needs. Yet, the Tab S2 can do it for $200 cheaper. Also, the Tab S2, thanks to its SD expansion slot, can get you a lot of extra storage space for a lot less. So for everyday media consumption, you get a better deal with the Tab S2 relative to the price. On the other hand, if on top of great entertainment and gaming, you also want a tablet that is a powerhouse and is able to handle desktop class tasks such as editing and exporting multiple streams of video files easily and effortlessly, or for 3D design, you should consider the iPad Pro. Additionally, if you have a definitive need to use your tablet as a tool for sketching, drawing, and writing, again, the iPad Pro becomes the choice as it offers the Apple Pencil. Now, as you can see, the name Pro isn't just for show, they really mean it. And of course, one other thing you will have to come to terms with is the software. Remember, the Tab S2 is more customizable but lacks the quality apps and games iOS will provide. So basically, it all comes down to what you need the tablet for and the price you are willing to pay for it. So the choice is in fact yours. Well, thank you for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe to sakitech and give this video a thumbs up. Also, follow me on Twitter and Facebook at sakitech online, for which links are in the description below. Have a fantastic day.